when we as developers and contractors look at the opportunities with whether it's vacant land or existing buildings, one of the components that you need to look at is how do people get here. So the Rapid's part of that formula.
As we build this life sciences sector, and I think a lot of the people that we attract to our community for that are coming from metropolitan areas where they're much more urban oriented. So I do think that 20 years from now, our growth in West Michigan will not be necessarily the growth where it's just the next ring of expansion, but you're going to see a more urbanization or a re-urbanization of our community and how we work and play and interact. And if that's the case, where we have kind of a re-urbanization of West Michigan as our future growth, then the Rapid mass transit has a huge role to play.
Businesses want the whole package. They want to move into an area that has a good educational system, that has good infrastructure, and into a community that looks like it believes in itself. And a community that's not funding roads, that isn't funding mass transit, that isn't funding all of the things that we do together, that isn't funding parks, that isn't making those collective investments, isn't going to look as attractive to an employer.
I believe that the city is going to continue to grow and thrive at an extremely rapid rate. In my opinion, I think eventually Grand Rapids is going to have a larger population base, or the greater Grand Rapids area, than they even have over on the east side of the state.
You know, we're creating value. We're creating value to the city. I mean, it's a car sitting there, unless it's in a city parking lot, which, you know, there is some revenue for the city. Again, I couldn't tell you statistically, but I have to believe a worker downtown, so that real estate used to house a worker is going to be a long-term better income producer for the city than not. I mean, the tax that worker has to pay to the city, the consumption going to restaurants, and just the vibrancy that it brings.
In order to get people moving up the economic ladder, you need a stable way to get to work and back. The more public transportation opportunities that you have, and there are multiple, and they can be all kinds of different ones, the more you enable people to move up the economic ladder economically, because they've got that taken care of.
Good public transportation is for everybody, and it's a vital means for good economic stability and growth. But we have a big enough area, we should have the best public transportation system we can have for this metropolitan size, so we can bring in events, bring in conventions, bring in sporting events, big time sporting events that get on the networks, like the NCAA Final Four or a regional semifinal in men's and women's basketball, or something like that. And the only way we're going to do that is we're going to have good public transportation.
We're the second biggest city in Michigan, and we're growing. We're bigger than a small city, but we're not one of the top biggest 5 cities in America. But if we're looking to attract not just regional jobs, but national jobs, we're at the point where we're going to have to start growing up.
If you have the good infrastructure in place, if you have the mass transit system in place, if you've spent money on the appropriate accommodations for the handicapped and for getting people to and from work, I think it bodes well for the future of our region in terms of attracting manufacturing as well as the service types of industries.
Mass transit can only enhance us as a destination in education. We also believe that we have another destination that's in health, and I believe with the activity up on the Hill and people coming here, whether it be through jobs or through other activities, mass transit can also be helpful in supporting that new economy as we look ahead to a revitalized Michigan.
It's really, truly all about the community, and it's about sharing. You know, if we're successful in having a great transit authority in our community, it makes us a better community.